This is the Off-World UFO report, and I decided to make a top 20 video because a lot of the most publicized videos are really the least interesting videos of UFOs that you will ever find. And I wanted to show you some more compelling options that often have their own chain of custody. Some of them come from foreign militaries or the US military in foreign countries, such as the one you're watching right now. For those that come off the internet, we're going to want to know where they came from, perhaps who was the photographer, and if they show the same kind of phenomena that we see elsewhere, and how it behaves. So without further ado, here is number 20. First, we got this Japanese family in what looks to be the Himalayas, way above tree line where the air is thin, and you're not going to fly a drone, especially in the 60s when this was taken. I like old footage because we get to see an era when there wasn't drones and there wasn't supersonic flight, yet this object flies by in the background in milliseconds and it doesn't have any wings. So what are you going to say about that? Number 19 is also a vintage one. This is 1966 in Catalina Island, California. The photographer is Leland Hansen. This video was analyzed by NASA. The object was going about 140, 150 miles an hour. Okay, number 18. Mexican Air Force. In early 2000s, they see 11 objects in the desert while they're looking for drug traffickers, and they're all confused. You can hear them describing what they see, trying to estimate the speed. They believe that they're flying at the same altitude as these pilots, and they're very confused. There are 11 of them. They're different sizes. They're flying in tandem. This has also been analyzed by the Mexican government and was released. Number 17. This one is in the Southwest Desert, I believe. And what I like about it is the objects separate and come together. They're blinking red and white. You can hear surprise in the camera person's voice, and they've been seen doing this in other places. Number 16. This one was made by my friend Daniel Sanchez in Mexico City by the airport, and he has excellent cameras. He catches stuff like this by his house all the time, and this is not a place where it's legal to have drones flying around, and this is definitely not a drone. He gets really close up here, and it's pink and green. There's no propellers visible, and this is not the first or the only time that he's seen this exact object. So here's another day sighting of something similar. Number 15. This comes from Chile, from a guy named Marco, and he also has excellent cameras. One thing I like about this sighting is that in every frame, this object looks different. It almost seems as if the water is being reflected off of its plasma shield. But if you pause the video, especially at this moment right here, every frame it looks different. Why is that? I don't know, but it's one reason why I chose this video. It's because we're seeing behavior and performance that is unique. Even if this was a drone, the light wouldn't look like that. And it's definitely not a star. And Marco does a lot of stargazing, so he knows the difference. But this look of a bullseye almost is something you see often in UAP. Number 14. This one comes from Chile as well. The Chilean Navy is a helicopter pilot who saw this object and realized that it wasn't visible without infrared. So he keeps changing the camera to regular view to infrared and the object disappears. So that's one thing we learned from this video and had evidence that the object did not appear except in infrared, which is something remarkable. But then there's this explosion of gas that it expels, and that's very odd. I can't think of any other video where we've seen an expulsion of gas. Number 13. This one comes from Syracuse, Italy. I tracked it down and talked to the author of the video. Another excellent camera captures this amazing close-up, and the object is moving around, but he's got a really steady hand, and we get a zoom in and a zoom out, so we have a little bit of framework of where this appears, which is very impressive, and it helps when a cameraman does that. Now we have an extreme close-up coming up here, and it's got this kind of diamond shape, like an aura almost, which is unique. But there have been other sightings in other places where the appearance is like this, and we're going to take a look at those. Number 12. This is Daniel Sanchez again. Daniel Sanchez Skywatcher in YouTube. And here he gets a flotilla with a sentinel out front and then this wedge formation behind. And you'll notice that the objects change position and fly in unison, kind of in this playful way, making a new wedge formation. That is not something that drones do or pilots, and birds don't fly with this kind of a steady trajectory. They fly with the undulation of their wings. So you got like 10 UAP here flying together, and again, this is something that Daniel sees all the time by his house. He has lots of videos like this. And remember, this is 5 blocks from the airport, so whoever the pilot is going to get arrested if that's a pilot. Number 11. This is from Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, and the US DHS had a surveillance plane, and the airport air traffic control reported this object coming from the ocean. They shut down the flights and alerted the surveillance plane, which followed this for about 4 minutes until it flew into the ocean. Here it's going up to the waves. They zoom in, and right here it's flying about 100 miles an hour, and it dips into the water and there's no splash. And then a few seconds later it comes out of the water, goes back in, and then he zooms out and the object, it resurfaces and separates into 2. This video was analyzed by the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, and they discovered that this actually was a separation into 2 equal-sized objects. This was not 2 objects that suddenly appeared. They're the same size, and then one goes into the water and the other one's still flying around above the surface. Very mysterious. Number 10. This one's from France, the Gorge du Verdon, and a disc-shaped object flies directly into the mountain and disappears. It doesn't enter a cave. You can tell by the way that it disappears. It slowly goes right into the mountain. This is what's called high strangeness, because that seems impossible. But we observe UAP doing this quite often, particularly flying into volcanoes. Number 9. This one is from a volcano in Mexico called Colima, and this elongated glowing object flies right to what would be called las faldas del volcano, which is like the skirts of the volcano, and it hangs out for a long time, probably running some kind of advanced telemetry tests. And I've actually fast forwarded it quite a bit so we don't have to sit there. And then it flies off just as quickly. But this camera is official disaster agency camera, so you don't mess with that. Number 8. This is from a pilot flying into Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, and he shows you his position as this object is approaching, and then he masterfully zooms in to catch the closest view. Perfect dodecahedron shaped object. It's really unique. There's no known human technology that has this shape or this rotation, because it's rotating, which is a frequent occurrence with UAP. This one has been analyzed quite a bit. It's pretty famous, which is one reason I chose it. It has this symmetrical shape. Now we're going to watch a little stabilized version done by a TikTok user, and it's really impressive. But this is one that was on the History Channel, which is not very historical, but anytime a sighting is analyzed this deeply, it's worth counting in the top 10. So number 7. This one is in Canada, Quebec, and this one was also analyzed by experts. They said it was a balloon, like a lettered balloon. I don't think that, because of the way that the light reflects off of it. So it changes shape various times. It almost seems like it has some thrusters at the bottom, but the camera person did a really good job of catching it over a few minutes, and it changes shape in really, really strange ways. And it seems like it's like evening time. Maybe it's sunset, and that's responsible for this odd light, like this reddish light. But the shape changes are really odd. I don't see how this could be a balloon. And if it's a lettered balloon, like a number 3 or number 7 or something, like what alphabet is that? And number 6. This one is Belgrade, Serbia, and the camera is really good. Usually don't get such a good view, but from the way that the light seems to burn, it seems like this object is covered with plasma, which is something that has been postulated because of these objects' transmedium travel, going from space to water to air. Number 5. Guayaquil, Ecuador. I chose this one because it's really old. You didn't have drones back then, and this one is spinning around. It's got like a candelabra crystal chandelier type of appearance. It's above the city and spinning around. This is no trick photography. It's no quotidian air debris. Ecuador did not have advanced military type flying objects in 1995. Nowadays, we're starting to design drones that have multiple propellers, but by no stretch of the imagination did this kind of thing exist in 1995. This is off-world. Number 4. This came from Popocatépetl in 2016. These objects come out of the ground, 30 of them. Some of them fly down from the sky. This is way over 20,000 feet. So there's no way that's a drone. They don't fly like drones. They fly like living things. They fly together like a school almost. They zigzag and they go into the ground. High strangeness. This is a government webcam, and it's not the only time that these have appeared. Number 3. This one is extremely close. It's got these ridges. It's got its own light. It's not a reflection because it's nighttime. So it's a lighted object flying in the sky, and we have this incredibly steady view, completely zoomed up. It's an excellent capture. This is a really high-powered camera. Zooms out to give us a context. It seems to be in the woods. We zoom back in. This high-powered lens, and it's got like a blue aura around it, which suggests that it might be extremely hot. Your guess is as good as mine. Number 2. This is from Florida, I believe, 1994. Got a little sunset shot. Looks like Gulf of Mexico, maybe? Because the sun's setting in the west, of course. And so since then, we've seen similar appearances over the ocean. Nothing around. 13 UFOs. Number 1. On April 18th, 2016, over Mexicali, Tijuana, Carlos Guerrero goes by the name Charlie XTPX. He's a DJ. He's in his hotel or his apartment, and he notices these 9 objects, and he just keeps watching them. Now he shows you the street and his room for context, which is always helpful. The cool thing about this video, not only that he gets this great close-up and it's pretty steady, but it goes on for several minutes. You can hear him talking, you can hear the waves coming in. He's like getting out of his sliding glass door here to get on the balcony, I believe. This was during a time when these kinds of sightings were happening frequently, all up and down the Tijuana coast, up to San Diego. And they were all over the Mexican news, so people had a chance to try to debunk them, but nobody could. You can't really tell how far they are away, but if they're Chinese lanterns, why are they floating? And if they're drones, what are they doing out over the water? This has been a mystery with the US Navy, where glowing objects follow aircraft carriers and they don't know who they are, who they belong to. One of the fascinating things about this video is that these points of light begin to disappear. Already, one or two of them have appeared and disappeared, and they slowly get smaller until they blink out. You've already seen the configuration change in shape a little bit. There's now fewer objects and they're getting smaller. And Charlie, or Carlos, is still keeping his hands steady. They got this weird pulsation. That's not normal. Get bigger and smaller. One of them just went out. Now that other one's about to go out. Blinks a few times, disappears and reappears. Another one goes out. Yeah, they're all disappearing. And they're not going into the water as far as we can tell. Are they going into another dimension?
I can't believe they considered that to be a UFO.